news tonight, the Bush administration begins a campaign to get at the money which helps the terrorists. A message from Osama bin Laden, he calls on Muslims in Pakistan to defend Afghanistan. The Attorney General says crop dusters in the U.S. will stay grounded at least until midnight. The FBI says it's worried they could be used to spread chemical or biological agents. The country's largest pilots union says its pilots should have the option of carrying a gun in the cockpit. And finding comfort in baseball and music and the Bible. Little by little, the nation moves on.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. And so the United States begins another week in uncharted territory, though for millions of people, the days all seem to run together. The Bush administration has begun the campaign to get at the financial assets of those who support terrorism. And we've heard from Osama bin Laden today, a message to the Arabic television service Al Jazeera. He calls on people in Pakistan to resist what he called the new Jewish-Christian crusade led by the big crusader Bush. And the Attorney General of the United States has said today that crop dusting planes will stay grounded until at least tomorrow because the FBI is concerned about their capacity to deliver biological or chemical agents. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first to the White House and ABC's Terry Moran. Terry?
Well, Peter, attacking terrorists' finances has been tried before. What's new about today's order is its attempt to use the U.S.'s vast economic leverage to rid the world's financial markets of terrorism. In short, its global reach. In the Rose Garden, Mr. Bush delivered an ultimatum, this time to the world's bankers.
If you do business with terrorists, if you support or sponsor them, you will not do business with the United States of America.
The order the president signed targets 27 individuals and organizations whose U.S. assets will be immediately frozen, and it prohibits Americans from conducting any business with them. But the real financial firepower in the order, new powers allowing the government to freeze the U.S. assets of any bank anywhere in the world that deals with named terrorists. ABC News has learned one of the 3 Islamic charities named today as either fronts or dupes for terrorists has an account at the Pakistan-based Habib Bank, which has a branch in New York City. The president's order today could shut that bank down in the U.S.
It's a very substantial warning to banks all over the world that they move terrorist money at their peril. But it's the follow-up that will determine how effective it is.
Others named in the president's order today include Osama bin Laden himself and his al-Qaeda network, Ayman al-Zawahiri, one of bin Laden's top lieutenants, Abu Zubaydah, the organization's chief of operations, and other terrorist groups from Libya to the Philippines.
The campaign has begun. We're going after al-Qaeda, we're going after terrorism. And this is an indication of how we're going to use all the elements of our national and international power to do it.
There's one more aspect to this order. Banks around the world are being required to provide intelligence about their terrorist clients, and the list of those names is going to expand as the U.S. adds those names. Peter, the cost for banks not cooperating is the same. Heavy sanctions against them in the U.S.
Many thanks, Terry. Terry Moran at the White House tonight. On Capitol Hill today, the Attorney General John Ashcroft was talking about the possibility of an attack using chemical or biological agents. Mr. Ashcroft said the FBI has gathered information raising fears that crop dusters could be used for such attacks. ABC's Brian Ross joins us tonight with the details. Brian?
Peter, the country's 5,000 crop dusters remain grounded for a second day today.
The FBI assesses the uses of this type of aircraft to distribute chemical or biological weapons of mass destruction as potential threats to Americans. We have no clear indication of the time or place of any such attack.
The FBI has asked local police around the country to see if any crop dusters are missing. The action comes after agents learned that one of the men in custody, Zacharias Moussaoui, had downloaded significant information from the internet about the aerial application of chemicals, and that several of the now dead hijackers, including suspected ringleader Mohammed Atta, had spent a great deal of time at this crop dusting operation in Belle Glade, Florida, and may have wanted to buy a crop duster.
The basic question was, how hard are they to fly? Several of them asked that. Are they hard to fly?
At the same time, the FBI is investigating why 3 other men now under arrest were taking courses at this Detroit truck driving school, attempting to obtain licenses to drive trucks with hazardous materials.
You're hauling a piece of equipment, all right, that is capable of mass destruction. It can do a tremendous amount of damage.
And there's one more concern. Earlier this year, a convicted terrorist by the name of Ahmed Rassam testified that he had been trained in the use of cyanide gas at a bin Laden training camp in Afghanistan, trained how to release cyanide into the intake vents of government buildings. Peter?
Thanks, Brian. Brian Ross. The World Health Organization said today that advances in technology have made it theoretically possible for terrorists to kill millions of people with chemical or biological weapons. And the agency's report says governments are obliged to develop defense plans. But launching an effective attack would be very difficult. Here's ABC's Ned Potter.
If a crop duster now conjures up images of mass death and destruction, most doctors say to calm down. They say it's one thing to spray a farm field at low altitude. It's much harder to fly over a city and be sure the chemical in the plane's tanks will reach many people below. Still, the experts are worried.
I think September 11th has given us added evidence of the sophistication and determination of at least some terrorists.
The attack 2 weeks ago changed the image of terrorism. It was carried out by men who planned thoroughly and were well organized.
If they were to apply a similar disciplined, methodical approach to acquiring chemical or biological weapons, they might potentially be able to overcome the very significant technical hurdles involved.
Those hurdles are large, both in making a killer chemical and then in spreading it. Take the example of Tokyo in 1995, when a group tried to spread sarin gas through the city subway. They killed 12 people, but they had hoped the gas would spread citywide, and it never got beyond one subway station. It also turned out they had first tried to use anthrax, but the anthrax bacteria they grew were harmless.
This is not off-the-shelf equipment, and the know-how is not something that a university chemist or microbiologist would have.
And since Tokyo, the U.S. government has slowly been ramping up its defenses. The Centers for Disease Control has been turning out vaccines for smallpox and other diseases.
There are systems in place to deal with it. Those systems need to be strengthened, but they will serve us well at the moment.
That's reassuring, but simulations in past years have often gone badly. Government agencies were badly coordinated. Hospitals could not handle floods of patients. So as unlikely as an effective attack may be, not all cities may be ready for one. Ned Potter, ABC News, New York.
We learned today that the Airline Pilots Association, which is the country's largest pilots union, will recommend to the Congress tomorrow that pilots of passenger jets be allowed to arm themselves with guns. Here's ABC's Lisa Stark.
The union says it has no idea how many pilots would want to carry a gun, but it says they should have that option.
This was an item that we came to, frankly, reluctantly, because we've been fighting to keep guns off aircraft for a long time, but the new threat demanded a new response.
Under the proposal, pilots would volunteer to become federal law enforcement officers. They would undergo the same type of training given to air marshals and would also have to pass extensive background and psychological checks. It would take an act of Congress to allow pilots to carry guns. Not everyone thinks this is a good idea. They worry the guns may end up in the wrong hands.
You could turn a would-be hijacker with a blunt instrument into someone who's very powerful with a gun to the head of a pilot.
Industry sources say the airlines are also very concerned about this idea. But the head of the Federal Aviation Administration said today that given what happened on board those hijacked planes, the agency is absolutely willing to consider guns in the cockpit. Lisa Stark, ABC News, Washington.
How things change. Now let's go overseas. In Afghanistan, the Taliban says it is mobilizing its forces, though it's not clear what that means. The Taliban is also seizing food from the remaining UN relief agencies and threatening some of the aid workers. Very clear what that means. In Moscow, President Putin says Russia will support the U.S. by supplying weapons to forces inside Afghanistan which are fighting the Taliban. The United States is actively supporting the most prominent opposition group there, The Northern Alliance controls only a tenth of the country, but in this fight, they are important. And ABC's Mike Lee reports tonight from inside Afghanistan.
This is the territory controlled by the Northern Alliance. It's a group the U.S. is now counting on for help. We've been fighting the Taliban for years, says this lieutenant colonel, fighting terrorists and fighting Osama bin Laden before America got interested. The alliance is a collection of clans that would like to rule the country. In the last 2 weeks, the alliance has gone on the offensive, stepping up its fight against the Taliban that has been going on for years and has so far been a miserable failure. The Northern Alliance says it has about 15,000 troops. It uses some of the leftover weapons of the old Afghan war against the Soviets, some of them in good shape, some of them not. These are the Soviet tanks, he says, that we will use to fight the Taliban. The Taliban have the same outdated equipment, but a lot more of it. Today, the Taliban said it could mobilize 300,000 fighters for a holy war against its enemies, a number that is probably exaggerated. Also today, the leader of the Taliban, Mohammed Omar, said the only way for the U.S. to eliminate terrorism is to pull its soldiers out of the Persian Gulf. The United States believes that the Northern Alliance can offer some military help, as well as intelligence about potential targets for any American attacks. So the Northern Alliance, which many U.S. citizens probably never heard of until a few days ago, suddenly seems to be America's new best friend here, at least as long as U.S. forces are willing to take on their enemy. Mike Lee, ABC News in northern Afghanistan.
We do learn more about Afghanistan every day, a little later in the broadcast, trying to pinpoint Osama bin Laden. But now let's turn to the stock market. Investors who were selling like mad last week were buying today, and in record numbers. The Dow Jones Industrial Average had its fifth biggest point gain ever. The Dow was up 368 points to close at 8,603. On the NASDAQ, stocks were up 76 points. Investors were hunting for bargains, but ABC's Betsy Stark joins us tonight and says there's still some nervousness. What I don't get is everybody was so down on the market on Friday and up on the market on Monday. What made the difference?
I think, Peter, that enormous shift in sentiment is evidence of the kind of volatility that we're likely to see. These are emotional times. The best explanation I heard, the explanation I heard most often, as you suggest, was that the selling was overdone on Friday, and we saw bargain hunters out today, especially in the blue chips. Take a look at some cases in point. GE down 20% last week, up 12% today. American Express down 27% last week, up 9% today. Intel down 26% last week, up 10% today. GM and Home Depot, much the same story. Is it a one-day wonder or a sustainable recovery? No agreement on that.
A question about oil prices. Huge drop in oil prices, crude oil.
Crude oil down almost 15% today. Basically, the reason is falling demand because of the drop-off in air travel and also fears that we're going to have a global recession, which means there will be less demand for oil.
Many thanks. As always, Betsy Stark. When we come back, the specifics of hunting Osama bin Laden. The question is, will the U.S.'s high-technology arsenal make any real difference? And then we'll look out at the country again as people attempt to get back to living. Call it coping.
Too many high-interest monthly payments? Why not pay them off with a second mortgage with a no-closing cost option from Ditech.com? Apply online now or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED. And there is no equity required. Ditech Second Mortgage with a no-closing cost option can help you to consolidate your high-interest debts into one low monthly payment. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online now or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED.
Now, the same Caltrate that helps fight bone loss may help your colon too. In a recent study, Caltrate helped reduce the risk of recurrence of colon polyps, a risk factor for colon cancer. The same Caltrate you take for your bones, now for colon health too.
Right on target. Now, Grecian 5 hair color targets only your gray hair to leave subtle tones like your own natural color, all in 5 easy minutes. Grecian 5 targets only the gray.
This is Unisom Sleep Gels. It helps you sleep. This is Tylenol PM. It helps you sleep too. They both have the exact same amount of the exact same sleep ingredient. But Tylenol PM has added medicine for headaches, backaches, even fever. Do you have a headache? Backache? Fever? Then why take medicine for it? Take Unisom. It's a safe, non-habit-forming way to fall fast asleep.
Super Polygrip keeps my dentures in very, very tight. I use Super Polygrip every morning, and it lasts from morning until evening. With Super Polygrip, I can eat every kernel of corn.
Also try Polygrip Ultra Fresh.
Pepto-Bismol. It's first aid for heartburn, diarrhea, nausea, indigestion, and upset stomachs.
So where is the world's most wanted man, and how is the United States going to find him? Reports and rumors about rumors from the region place Osama bin Laden in China, in Chechnya, and any number of locations inside and outside Afghanistan. U.S. officials say that they believe he's still in Afghanistan. Our national security correspondent, John McCarthy, takes us a little farther into how one gets a bead on him. John?
Peter, the U.S. has a dazzling array of technology to help search for Osama bin Laden. U-2 spy planes flying at the edge of space. J-STARS surveillance aircraft that can track anything that moves on the ground, day or night. Small unmanned planes that can keep watch of rugged mountain passes, and bigger aircraft that can pick up all cell phone or radio calls. One huge problem with the high-tech approach, though.
I don't believe, based upon what I'm seeing, that this guy is using the telephone. He knows how to use runners. We're talking primitive stuff here. You give the guy the message, he takes it to the next guy, to the next guy, to the next guy.
Bin Laden also knows how to hide in complexes of mountain caves that he and others in Afghanistan have used for decades.
They know the hideouts, they know the caves, they know the tunnels. Very tough places to get at with any kind of high technology weapons.
So the best method for tracking Osama bin Laden may be the old-fashioned way. Find people who know the neighborhood, who have been fighting the ruling Taliban, or who are willing to defect from their ranks, which is exactly what the administration is just now starting to do. So the man now begins, Peter, with a number of U.S. generals saying that in this one, it probably favors the fugitive and not the superpower.
Thank you, John. John McCarthy at the Pentagon. There was a rare acknowledgement about the value of force today from the Vatican. In the Central Asian nation of Kazakhstan today, where he's on a visit, the Pope's spokesman said the Vatican would understand if the U.S. uses force to protect itself from terrorism, but the response, they went on, should not be excessive nor hurt innocent people. It is extremely rare for the Pope to even condone the use of force. When we continue this evening, the underground banking system, which moves the money without a trace.
Million people in America have type 2 diabetes. And my own grandmother lost her battle. If you have type 2 diabetes, it's more important than ever to watch what you eat and exercise regularly. And if that's not enough, ask your doctor about adding Avandia to your daily routine. Avandia is different from some diabetes medications. It helps your body use the natural insulin it's already making to help lower your blood sugar. With the addition of Avandia, a lot of people have been able to lower their blood sugar.
Avandia in combination with insulin may increase the risk of serious heart problems. Because of this, talk to your doctor before using Avandia and insulin together. Avandia may cause fluid retention or swelling, which could lead to or worsen heart failure. Avandia is not for everyone. If you have severe heart failure or active liver disease, Avandia is not recommended. Some people may experience weight gain with Avandia. Premenopausal women may be at increased risk of pregnancy. To check for serious liver problems, blood tests should be conducted before and during Avandia therapy.
Diet, exercise, and ask your doctor about adding Avandia. You can be stronger than diabetes.
Stop your messing around. Stop your messing
Messy babies? No problem. Introducing new Bibsters, a first from Pampers. A disposable bib that's so absorbent they can drip and spill and dribble some more. Because after they mess them up, you throw them out. New Pampers Bibsters. And for messy faces and fingers, soon to come are Pampers Wipesters. Easy every step of the way.
The long jump. The dash. Life is like a sport, and your feet take the impact hard. But new Stride Guard insoles absorb 50% more heel impact than these Dr. Scholl's. Take more impact in stride. New Stride Guard insoles.
What's the question?
Hi.
Hi. Hey, what's with the makeup?
She's got a date. It's not a date, it's just a group thing.
Yeah, what time's this group thing over with?
10:30.
Whoa, try again.
All right, 10 o'clock.
And don't forget what we talked about. No.
Drinking and no smoking.
Right.
And no kissing.
And no kissing.
So here, I have to go. Bye, Daddy.
Bye.
Talk to your kids about not smoking.
Hey, you want a cigarette? No, thanks.
They'll listen.
What were you saying? My hair color.
Tired of struggling down glass after glass of powdered fiber for regularity? Consider refreshing glasses of water with FiberCon tablets. A whole lot easier to take.
And every bit as effective as powder.
FiberCon, refreshingly easier to take.
We're going to return to the subject of trying to get the terrorists money. This attempt by the Bush administration to cut off money flowing around the world is monumental. There are so many ways that money can travel between terrorists and ordinary people. Here's ABC's Robert Krulwich.
Is there a way to transfer tens of thousands of dollars around the world to America to pay for pilot schools or houses and food that leaves no trace of who sent the money? There is, says Jonathan Weiner.
It's called the Hawala system, and it's an underground banking system
that regular folks in India, Pakistan, the Middle East, China use to send their money all over the world, including to America.
Because it allows them to avoid tariffs and income taxes and having to worry about corrupt officials and paying bribes. And it's fast, it's convenient, and it's anonymous.
Here's how it works. Suppose a man in Pakistan wants to send money to a fellow in New York. He goes to a broker in his neighborhood with $1,000 and a small commission, and he says,
"Can you get money to New York for me?"
The broker contacts a fellow broker in New York and says, "Do you have $1,000 in New York you can give tomorrow to a young man who's going to show up in your office calling himself," could call himself anything.
Yeah, Mr. Blue wearing a white carnation.
The next day, Mr. Blue with a white carnation appears. The New York broker gives him $1,000. But here's the problem. The broker in New York has just given $1,000 to a total stranger, so he's down $1,000. The broker in Pakistan has got $1,000 plus commission, so he's ahead. Now, how do they even things out? Well, so many people use this system, it's quite likely in New York City, a Pakistani will want to send $1,000 the other way to his mom in Pakistan.
And the same thing happens in reverse.
This time, the New York dealer gets the money, so it evens out. And if it doesn't, the one who's ahead will pay by check to the one who is behind. But the key thing is, using this system, there's no record of who gives the money.
That's right.
No record of who receives the money.
That's right.
No bank involved.
That's right.
No money trail.
That's correct. That's why this is a loophole in our system of banking regulations that absolutely has to be closed.
Robert Krulwich, ABC News, New York.
When we come back, out in the country, looking for a little relief.
Hey, Teddy. Glad you could make it.
No problem.
Listen, you know how I told you to build all those stores?
Yeah?
And you know how I told you to staff them with computer experts?
Right.
Well, now is when we look like geniuses, Teddy boy.
How's that?
Well, there's a revolutionary new operating system coming out, and where's the best place for people to learn how to use it?
Our stores.
Bingo.
What will it take for you to talk to your doctor about Zocor? Zocor, be there.
Introducing the revolutionary new Icy Hot Patch. It concentrates pain relief where it hurts.
You gotta try this.
Icy first to dull the pain, then hot to relax it away for hours of relief. The new Icy Hot Patch.
Fantastic how long it works.
The Heartburn Hotel. If you suffer persistent heartburn 2 days a week or more, despite diet change and treatment, it may be acid reflux disease. Prescription Prevacid can mean 24-hour relief from acid reflux disease. Prevacid turns off tiny pumps that produce acid. It has a low occurrence of side effects, such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and nausea. Ask your doctor if Prevacid is right for you.
So leave your heartburn behind, yeah!
The more you live, the more you love, the more you laugh. The more a bladder control issue shouldn't hold you back. Discover new Serenity Slender. A breakthrough creates 3 layers of protection. The core of super absorbers keeps you drier in our thinnest design ever. Even the leading maxi doesn't come close to letting you feel this free. New Serenity Slender. More protection, less pad. Now that's more you.
I like to come here early in the morning, before the rest of the world puts their 2 cents in.
When you have pain and sleeplessness, but worry about taking something, reach for Tylenol PM. It's non-habit forming, stops your pain and helps you sleep so you can wake up refreshed.
If I don't have a good morning, I don't hold out much hope for the rest of the day.
Take comfort. It's Tylenol PM.
Coming up next on K2 News, 3,000 people could be out of work if an Oregon truck company closes 2 of its plants. They may not be flying, but local crop dusting companies are getting calls from FBI terrorist investigators. Plus, we talked to the mother of the very first Miss America from Oregon. Next on K2 News. See you then.
Finally this evening, those signs of moving on. Of course, the uncertainty is still there, but so is the irrepressible instinct to keep going. From out around the country, ABC's Dean Reynolds.
It is too soon to say the healing has begun, but at least the coping has.
And it's hit deep to left center.
Americans are resorting to familiar antidotes to dull the pain. The sights and sound of a home run can do it for some.
I was just so happy that I was able to, come through that situation and give these people something to cheer about.
In many places, including this concert hall in Indiana, people tried to lose themselves in music, away from the drumbeat of bad news. Elsewhere, bookstores report Bible sales are up amid a general search for a good read.
They come in and they're totally searching for something and they don't quite know what it is. They're very emotionally changed.
Many people seem to be taking this time to prioritize their lives. This sentiment came from Atlanta.
Making money, I don't think, is all that important anymore. It's being with people, being with your family and friends, and having that security.
In Los Angeles, one man spoke for many.
I need sober answers to the question, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it?
But would acceptable answers help?
I'm not sure you're ever going to feel better, like 100% better. I think we're just going to feel different.
From the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Increasingly, answers are sought through prayer.
Now it's every day. I go to church every day now.
Attendance at places of worship like Old St. Mary's Catholic Church in Chicago is way up.
I see people walking in here with heavy hearts and a sense of searching, a sense of longing for things to be the way they were.
But one way or another, many Americans seem to be taking the first tentative steps toward dealing with the way things are. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Chicago.
We heard that man. Sober answers to sober questions. We'll be back again tomorrow. That's World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.
Tuesday, you'll get to see the favorite new drama of the season, Philly.
I'm not ashamed of my job.
We should be. TV Guide says